Ever wish that, like, updating software was as easy as just snapping Legos together?
Hmm.
Well, that's the kind of elegance and flexibility we're going to be talking about today
Right.
as we dive deep into the world of dependency injection,
Yeah.
or DI for short.
Yeah.
By
It's
the
real.
end of this, you'll understand why DI is such a game changer in software development
Absolutely.
and how it impacts the apps you use every day.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to be using the Amazon listing for Mastering Dependency Injection in .NET 8, Advanced Concepts and Patterns
Okay.
by Roshan Gavandi as our guide today.
Sounds good.
And get this, Amazon's even given us some related book recommendations
Oh,
to
cool.
broaden our exploration.
Nice.
This is going to be fun.
I think what's so exciting about DI is that it really pushes the boundaries of how we think about building software.
Okay, so let's start with the basics.
For sure.
What exactly is dependency injection?
Imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
Instead of trying to craft every single piece yourself, the plumbing, the electrical wiring, the roof, you bring in specialists for each task.
Uh-huh.
That's essentially what DI does in software.
Okay.
It allows different parts of your code to focus on specific jobs and rely on other specialized components to handle the rest.
So instead of one giant, messy code base,
All right?
you're creating a system where everything has its place and can be easily managed, right?
Exactly. And this leads to some really powerful benefits, like scalability.
Okay.
Let's say you need to add a new feature to your app.
Right.
With DI, you can add a new independent module for that feature without modifying the existing code, making scaling smoother.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like adding a new room onto your house without having to rewire the entire electrical system.
Exactly.
The book we're looking at today, Mastering Dependency Injection in .NET 8,
Right.
specifically mentions that DI helps build maintainable applications.
Yes.
What does that mean in practice?
It means if a problem arises in one part of your code, you can isolate and fix that specific component without risking a domino effect that breaks other parts of the system.
Right.
DI promotes this modularity where changes can be made without unintended consequences.
So it's about making software more robust and less prone to those frustrating bugs and glitches we all encounter.
For sure.
The book also highlights the importance of testability.
Yes.
How does DI help with that?
When your code is modular and components are independent, it becomes much easier to test individual units of code in isolation.
Right.
You can ensure that each piece is working correctly before integrating it into the larger system,
Okay.
leading to more reliable software overall.
It's like having a quality control check for every single Lego brick
Exactly.
before you use it to build something amazing.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of different levels of building, the book seems to be targeted toward a wide range of developers,
Okay.
from beginners to seasoned architects.
Right. What's fascinating is how the book promises to cater to these different levels.
Right.
It mentions clear tutorials for those just starting with DI, advanced patterns for more experienced developers, and architectural best practices for those designing complex systems.
It really does sound like there's something for everyone in this book.
Yeah.
And based on the table of contents, it looks like it goes way beyond the basics, diving into some pretty advanced concepts.
Got it.
There's even a section on factory, decorator, and scoped service factories.
These are definitely more advanced concepts,
Okay.
but they're incredibly powerful.
Okay.
You see, a scoped service factory is like a barista who provides a fresh cup for each customer,
Okay.
ensuring you don't get someone else's leftovers.
Oh.
It ensures that each part of your application gets the exact resources it needs
Right.
without any unintended sharing or conflicts.
Now that you explain it like that, it makes perfect sense.
And it's not just this one book.
Right.
Amazon's also recommending Mastering AutoFac.
Okay.
Now, AutoFac is a popular tool that helps developers implement DI in their .NET projects. Think of it as a specialized Lego set designed specifically for building DI-based applications.
That's what I love about these deep dives.
Yeah.
We start with one source,
Right.
and it opens up this whole network of interconnected ideas and tools. I'm already feeling like I'm getting a much better understanding of this whole ecosystem.
It's definitely a fascinating space to explore.
So we've talked about what DI is and why
Yeah.
developers are so excited about it.
Okay.
But, I'm curious,
Sure.
how does all of this impact the apps and services we use every day? What's the connection for our listeners?
That's an important question.
Yeah.
And the answer is it affects almost everything.
Oh.
Think about it. Modular testable software, the kind made possible by DI, leads to applications that are more reliable,
Right.
easier to update, and more user-friendly.
You're saying that because of DI,
Yeah.
the apps on our phones and computers are less likely to crash
Mhm.
and easier to use.
Precisely. Think about how frequently you get app updates on your phone or computer.
Right.
Those updates often rely on DI principles to ensure they integrate smoothly with the existing code base without breaking anything.
Okay.
It's about making the entire digital world more robust and adaptable.
It's like being able to constantly renovate and improve your house
Exactly.
without ever having to worry about the foundation crumbling beneath you.
Exactly. And that's the real power of DI. It's not just about making developers' lives easier.
Yeah.
It's about creating a better digital experience for everyone. And this seamless modularity has a ripple effect that goes beyond individual apps.
Right.
Imagine you're working on a large software project with a team of developers.
Okay.
DI allows each developer to work on their own component independently without stepping on each other's toes.
So it's not just about making the software more organized.
Right.
It's about making the entire development process more efficient and collaborative.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
And that translates to faster development cycles,
Right.
quicker bug fixes, and ultimately better software released more frequently.
Okay, so we've seen how DI can make apps more stable,
Yeah.
easier to update, and faster to develop.
Right.
But let's get back to the user experience for a minute.
Sure.
Can you give me a concrete example
Yeah.
of how DI actually makes an app better for the person using it?
Absolutely. Let's take the example of a music streaming app.
Okay.
Imagine you're listening to your favorite playlist, and the app suddenly needs to download a software update in the background.
Right.
Without DI,
Yeah.
this could interrupt your music, force you to restart the app, or even cause it to crash. But with DI,
Okay.
the update process can be handled gracefully,
Right.
seamlessly swapping out the necessary components
Okay.
without disrupting your listening experience.
That's a fantastic example. It's something we've all experienced at some point.
Sh-
You're right in the middle of something,
Yeah.
and bam, an update pops up and ruins the flow.
Exactly.
DI is almost like the magic behind the scenes that keeps everything running smoothly,
Yeah.
even when complex operations are happening in the background.
It's all about creating a user experience that feels fluid and effortless.
Now, I know we touched on some of the advanced concepts in the book earlier,
Right.
like scoped service factories, but the table of contents also mentions things like decorators and factories.
Yeah.
I have to admit, those terms sound a bit intimidating.
Okay.
Can you demystify them a little?
Of course. These concepts might sound abstract,
Right.
but they're actually rooted in solving practical problems.
Okay.
Think of a decorator, like add in toppings to a pizza.
Okay.
You have your base pizza, your core code,
Okay.
and then you can add layers of functionality,
Right.
the toppings,
Okay.
using decorators without modifying the original pizza itself.
So it's a way to add features or modify behavior without messing with the underlying structure of your code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about making your code more flexible and adaptable. And as for factories,
Okay.
imagine you're at a car factory.
Okay.
You need a way to create different types of cars,
Right.
sedans, SUVs,
Good.
trucks,
Right.
based on specific requirements.
Right.
A factory in software does the same thing. It provides a blueprint for creating different objects or components as needed,
Okay.
making your code more organized and efficient.
It's amazing how these seemingly technical concepts
Yeah.
can be broken down into such relatable examples.
That's the beauty of it. At its core, DI is about elegant design and organization,
Right.
principles that can be applied to anything, not just software.
Okay, so these advanced concepts might take a little more time to wrap our heads around.
Right.
But the book also mentioned architectural best practices for using DI.
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways there?
One of the most important things is to use DI in a way that promotes loose coupling.
Okay.
This means that different parts of your system should be as independent as possible,
Right.
reducing dependencies and making your code more adaptable to change.
So it's not just about using DI.
Exactly.
It's about using it effectively.
Exactly. It's like building a house with modular components.
Right.
You want to make sure those components can be easily rearranged or replaced without bringing the whole house down.
Speaking of building things, I remember you mentioned another book recommendation from Amazon earlier.
Yeah.
Implementing design patterns in C#11 and .NET 7.
Right.
Is there a connection between DI and design patterns?
Absolutely. DI is often considered a foundational design pattern itself. And many other design patterns, like the ones mentioned in that book,
Okay.
can be implemented more effectively
Right.
when you have a solid understanding of DI principles.
It's almost like DI is a key that unlocks a whole new world of software design possibilities.
That's a great way to put it. It's about moving beyond just writing code
Yeah.
and thinking about how to structure your software in a way that is elegant,
Okay.
adaptable,
Right.
and resilient.
You know, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about those frustrating moments we all experience with software.
Yeah.
The crashes, the bugs,
Yeah.
the clunky interfaces. Do you think that in some cases these problems could have been avoided
Yeah.
with a better understanding and application of DI principles?
That's a really insightful question, and the answer is, in many cases, yes.
Okay.
When software is poorly designed and tightly coupled, even small changes can cascade into major problems.
It's like pulling on one loose thread and having the entire sweater unravel.
Exactly. DI helps prevent that
I bet.
by promoting modularity, testability,
Right?
and loose coupling, which ultimately leads to more robust and reliable software.
So it sounds like DI isn't just some like niche technical concept.
Right.
It really has the potential to impact the quality and reliability
Yeah,
of the software we use every day.
absolutely. And even if you're not a programmer, understanding the basics of DI
Right.
can give you a new appreciation for the hidden complexity behind the apps and the services you use. It's like peeking behind the curtain and seeing all the intricate mechanisms that
That
make
makes sense.
modern technology possible.
It makes you realize that there's so much more going on beneath the surface
Yeah,
than we often give credit for.
for sure.
It's not just about flashy features and user interfaces.
Right.
It's about creating a solid foundation that can support those features and make them work seamlessly.
Exactly. It's like the difference between building a house on sand
Okay.
and building it on solid bedrock.
Mm.
DI helps create that bedrock for software,
Right.
ensuring that it's stable,
Okay.
adaptable,
Yeah.
and able to withstand the ever-changing demands of the digital world.
Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask,
Sure.
what's the most important takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
Hmm.
If they only remember one thing about dependency injection, what should it be?
If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I'd say this.
Okay.
Dependency injection is about building software that is as elegant and adaptable as the real world it's designed to interact with.
Right.
It's about creating systems that can evolve and grow without falling apart.
That's a fantastic way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not just about lines of code.
Right.
It's about creating something that's truly resilient and future-proof.
Precisely. And next time you're using an app or service that just works beautifully, it's smooth, it's responsive, it's reliable, take a moment to appreciate the role that good software design and principles like DI might have played in making that experience possible.
It's a reminder that even in the digital world, the most important things are often the ones we don't see.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners,
Right.
the next time you encounter a buggy or frustrating piece of software,
Yeah.
ask yourself, could better use of dependency injection have prevented this?
That's a great question to ask.
It might just change the way you view the technology around you.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of dependency
Yeah,
injection.
it was my pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.